you. In order to ensure that everyone can clearly hear the presenters and hopefully avoid any technical difficulties this time, I have muted you, but I would also ask that you still mute yourself just to be sure, and you do that by pressing *# or the mute feature on your desk phone or mobile device. But again, I have attempted to mute all presenters. We ask that you please share your questions and comments in the Q&A pod. And once the presentations are complete, David and or I will field your questions. If we do not get to your question or you want to email in anything in regards to comments or questions after the presentation, I will share David and I's emails at the end of the webinar. So we'll be sure to get those answers and those responses out to you. We will be sharing the recording and the closed captioning transcripts, as well as the presentation materials after the webinar. But you can also download the presentations from the file pod, which we'll have up in the last screen. Thanks again for joining us, and I will hand it over to David to introduce our speakers.
Thank you, Jessica. Welcome, everybody. This is the second of 8 scheduled calls that we have with our Employment First initiative. And I want to express appreciation to Jessica and the Iowa Coalition of Integrated Employment. They've worked hard at collaborating with us and in creating this webinar foundation that allows us to do this. And I think we're excited about some of the changes we've made for this week compared to our initial run last month, and we're looking forward to these conversations as they go on for the rest of the summer. Today's topics really relate to our Employment First conversation. We have 3 of our original pilot projects that participated, and we're happy that they're here today to share a little bit of their process of how they've gotten to where they're at. Through the initial rollout of the pilot projects, we experienced quite a degree of success of working with individuals that had had no competitive employment successful experience. And through some of the practices that were implemented, we're trying to find ways to continue that within our service system. So they're going to share a little bit about what their experience was like, share a success story, talk a little bit about what were key strategies as it related to that success, as well as what's working now and what's not working, and how their current service delivery is impacted. We're going to start off with Julie McQueen and Sherry Clark from Nishna, and this is a company that works down in southwest Iowa, and so I'm going to turn it over to Julie and Sherry. Thank you.
Good afternoon, David.
Thanks. Hi, everyone.
Actions, involvement in the Employee First. We've found out quite a few things. The better you know someone and the more time that you take up front getting to know them results in a better fit in a job for the individual seeking employment. The better you know someone and the more time you take up front getting to know them. Wait a minute. Never mind. I think I just said that.
Yeah.
It's also expanded our strategies for assisting individuals with disabilities and obtaining employment, especially for those with more significant limitations. It allows us to live outside of the box and utilizing different IVR-SD codes to assist folks in recovering successful job matches. For example, job shadowing and community worksite assessments. The same ideas can be implemented with pre-vocational services and supportive employment-related services with Medicaid funding.
And we'll show you we'll talk about some of the examples that we've had with other folks in addition to our Employment First in utilizing these service codes.
For each person that says that they want to work in the community, but they are unsure of what they want to do, Discovery allows us the opportunity to get to know that person in all aspects of their life. This allows us to help them discover what skills they have in moving forward to get to the job that they want.
We're going to skip over some pictures and go to our Employment First people, so bear with us.
Okay, this young man's name is Jesse. He's a 24-year-old male. He was working at Nishna Productions Work Center in Shenandoah. There, Jesse did a number of jobs. He did, and occasionally worked on the outside contracts as well. The outside contracts mainly consisted of cleaning offices of churches. Jesse entered the Employee First project in December of 2012. Can you hear me okay? Jesse then
Just a little bit louder, Julie.
Okay. When we entered the Employment First project in December of 2012 with Jesse, I had worked with him at the workshop for a number of years. So I knew Jesse's abilities at the workshop. When I first started working with Jesse, I went to his home and observed his activities he did outside of work. I talked to Jesse when at his home and tried to get to know him and his interests. At first, Jesse answered with one or two word comments, but as I got to know him and spent more time with him, I was able to figure out some of the things that he enjoyed doing and some of the things that he could do that I had no idea, and he talked to me a lot more. I took Jesse out into the community. We went to basketball games. I observed him running the scoreboard. I observed Jesse's many talents he had not spoken of or considered it a big deal. I talked to Jesse about all the different things he could do and how he was a big asset to the school in his hometown. When we started talking about jobs, what he may want to do, Jesse was set on only stocking shelves at the grocery store at Walmart. I asked Jesse why he wanted to only do that job, and he stated that that's the only job he had ever done, and he thought that's the only job he could do. Between the two of us, we found many things that he was good in, the mowing, the raking, the doing yard work, and working outside. So Jesse agreed to look at other options. After that, we went to the Green Goods Center at Earl May. We talked to the manager. I showed Jesse around. The manager showed Jesse around and basically just told him the jobs that could be done out there, and he seemed very interested. We went back to the manager of the Green Goods after that first initial visit to talk to him about Jesse possibly working there. The manager agreed to hire Jesse with a job coach in place until Jesse was comfortable. After about 2 days of Jesse working there, the manager no longer wanted a job coach. He wanted just the natural support, and he was very excited about Jesse working there and being there on his own. As of this date, Jesse's still working at Earl May. He started out just watering plants and unloading trucks. He's now unloading trucks with a forklift, which he did not do before, and he's right alongside all of the other workers doing everything that they do. So it's been very successful for him, and he's very happy. And he stated to me many times that he was sure glad that he did not have to stock shelves. So that was a good deal for Jesse to get to know him and what his strengths are.
Do you have a problem with the volume?
No, it was just needing you guys just to speak a little more clearly into the phone and a little bit louder. But I think we're doing better now.
Okay.
Okay, our other person was a young woman. Her name is Ashley. She's 25 years old. She, too, was working at Nishna Productions in the Vocational Training Center. She was able to do any contract at that work center with no problems. She also worked on contracts outside of the work center as well. Again, it's the cleaning of the churches and different businesses. In January of 2013, excuse me, Ashley entered the Employment First program. At the work center, Ashley had great difficulty staying on task. She would often get herself involved in the drama that went on with the other consumers at the work center. Oftentimes, Ashley would create the drama. Ashley had a strong desire to get out to the work center and have a job in the community, but she was not sure what she wanted to do. Staff started working with Ashley at her home, at the work center, and at her enclave job. Staff observed the things that she did, the things she liked to do, and the things she was capable of doing. From there, staff talked to Ashley about the skills she had and how she would want to have a job where she could get paid to do the things that she enjoys. Ashley said, that'd be great, but where do I get a job where I could get paid to do the things I enjoy? Staff explained to her that there were lots of people that get paid to do what they like. There was no reason that she couldn't too. Staff and Ashley sat down and made a list of the things that she could do for a job and the things she thought she would like to do. Ashley and staff soon discovered that there were lots of skills she had to match up with jobs she may like. Ashley had a strong desire to work with children, older people, or animals. As I said before, Ashley's hurdle was her behavior at the work center. The staff explained to her she could not act like that at another job, or she would be asked to leave. Ashley said to staff she only acted like that because there was so much drama. Staff suggested that Ashley do a volunteer job at the nursing home to see if she could keep the drama out of the other workplaces. Ashley, along with staff person, did volunteer at the nursing home for 2 hours a week for 7 months. Ashley proved to staff and to herself that she could work without the drama around her. Ashley had no problem dressing appropriately for work. Whenever she was at the work center, she did not dress appropriately. She was showing her breasts or her shorts were too short. At the beginning of her volunteering, she did do that, and she was not able to go to volunteer. So she quickly learned the things that she was supposed to do. Ashley was ready to move into a community worksite assessment after 7 months. There was a job opening at another nursing home in Red Oak in the kitchen. Staff talked to Ashley about trying that job. Ashley thought that would be great because she could still talk to older people. Ashley felt that there would be no drama there. She did the community work site, and after the third day of her assessment, she was offered the job. As of today, Ashley's working in the kitchen at the other nursing home here in Red Oak. So she's happy at this job, and she has not worked at the work center at all for the last 2 to 3 months.
Can you share what Jesse and Ashley currently get paid?
Ashley currently gets paid $8.25 an hour, and Jesse is at $9 an hour. Ashley works approximately hours a week, 14 to 16 hours a week, as well as Jesse.
Let me interject a few things. This is Sherry, and I was a long ways away from the phone, so hopefully you can hear me. We did the volunteering at the first nursing home with pre-vocational funding through Medicaid, and that worked for us, and we've decided that that's an avenue. One of the avenues that can be pursued as you try to make process. Of course, community worksite assessment was funded by Voc Rehab. This last picture that we're showing you is true Ashley. She's very happy with the job that she has. Doesn't want to go back to the work center. We land the job. I think it's interesting. Julie McQueen was on the local radio station one day and just happened to visit this nursing home the same day, and they approached her immediately with, hey, we want one of your folks. So, we used that avenue to secure the job. What doesn't work for us, Julie, is there anything about these processes that don't work for us?
I have a really hard time getting family to discuss anything about their person. Friends, not so much, but family just don't like to share the problems or the likes that this person has.
I think the other challenge that we still have here in Southwest Iowa is the fact that we still have a lot of people, a lot of employers that we struggle with getting them to be willing to speak with us. We've used some of the negotiation strategies that have been given to us, but we're still struggling with getting those doors open, and we don't know how to break that door down. I guess we just keep going back and we just keep asking. So that's kind of our real short statement. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Thank you, Julie and Sherry. I think Jesse and Ashley are two excellent examples of the types of individuals that we can have success with through some innovative programming like you guys have displayed. I know from our first webinar that we had in March, we had a couple of questions after that webinar from our participants that related to some questions about, well, how do we go about developing transferable skills, and how do we be more effective in identifying what those transferable skills are? And there was a question about how do we network with businesses better. And I think we'll be touching on those topics in the next couple of webinars, actually. But you shared several things that I thought were very pertinent in terms of the importance of getting to know the individual up front. The time spent up front was important in identifying strengths and contributions and talents, establishing some interests, the importance of the collaboration and partnering among the different service systems, and the whole idea of how you could progressively move that person forward. And you mentioned, through observation and discovery, through volunteer work, through assessment and community assessment, through informational interviewing, through job coaching. There were a number of steps that you could build upon and go back and forth with. And I thought those were really good examples, ways and strategies to look at identifying and working with transferable skills. So I appreciate you sharing those. I think Jess had mentioned at the beginning that we try to mute the audience, that our purpose of muting you is not to prevent questions. So please do write questions into the captioning that's available on the webinar. And if we can't get to those questions today, we do look at those and we'll try to infuse answers to those questions in future webinars. At this time, I'm going to transition over, and we're going to go down to southeast Iowa and talk with Van Buren Job Opportunities. Janet Phelps is going to share some information and her perspectives on how her company has interacted with customized employment strategies. So Janet, we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dave. We are in southeast Iowa, Van Buren Job Opportunities. We are just an employment agency. We help people with disabilities achieve successful employment in the community. We provide employment services currently to 35, 40 people in our 5-county area. VBJO was started over some 20 years ago. We started with one client who came from the sheltered workshop through a conversion grant from IVRS. And with that person came a lot of paperwork and reports, and I remember the report saying that he was 76% employable. So I placed him in a job that he had worked in the workshop as a janitor, and I placed him in an industry here in town, and within 30 days he was fired. I just myself could not understand his strengths and limitations and his support needs by paper reports. So together with IVRS and three other CRPs, we developed the community-based assessment, which has proven to be very beneficial in finding out about the person in the community tryouts. And as the years went by, we conducted fewer and fewer CBAs, but every time we did, it was a benefit for placement. In 2012 and 2013, we were given the opportunity to work with IVRS and the other pilots to learn about customized employment. And that is why I guess I'm here today, wanting to tell you a little bit about what we have learned this first year. I can only share with you some of the strategies that we have learned so far, knowing that the CBA took 3 years as a pilot, so we still have a lot to learn. But first, I want to tell you what community-based customized employment is not. It is not, discovery is not an assessment. It does not replace our community-based assessment. And customized job development, a piece of customized employment, is not just matching job seekers with job openings. And we learned that those two parts of customized employment were very beneficial for helping us in our placement efforts. Just briefly want to go over with you what we found out that was beneficial, successful for us with discovery. It was provided a starting point of the customized process. We found that doing our homework up front really helped us make our job development a little easier. Also, discovery allowed us to get to know the person on a whole new level. Discovery takes into account the job seeker's entire life experiences rather than the single instances of performances that we were getting glimpses of before. And following discovery with community-based assessment has greatly enhanced our employment possibilities for job seekers. In fact, 4 of the 5 job seekers that we were given in the pilot had community-based assessment followed their discovery. And 3 of those got a job from CBAs, and 1 of them got the job at the location of the CBA tryout. And then some customized job development points I wanted to tell you about, that we found customized job development helped us take what we learned from discovery and to determine whether an employer's needs really truly match the job seeker's contributions, conditions, and interests for employment. It gave us an opportunity to utilize the information gathered in discovery and helped us negotiate a position. For some job seekers, negotiating worked better than the old traditional way of matching a job opening to a client. We found that we had received new presentation ideas, and we had done a lot of job carving before, and this just sort of reinforced what we were doing and gave us some more tools to work with. 3 out of the 4 placements that we placed through the pilot were carved out jobs for them. Now, I want to just tell you a little bit about our success story. She was an individual with chronic mental illness. The pilot gave her an opportunity that she would not have had otherwise because she was shredding paper every Friday for an hour or so, every other Friday at a case management office. Discovery gave us an opportunity to observe her in her home environment where she liked to be 99% of the time. She did not want to go outside. She was very hesitant at first, but Discovery gave us time to build a relationship with her and get a full picture of what work environment she functioned best in. besides her home. Her conditions for work, like what triggered her mental illness symptoms to escalate, and her potential contributions, and helped us identify the types of job tasks that she really did like and that she could maybe pursue, we could pursue with her. Discovery awakened her interest in doing more and getting out of the house. And through Discovery, it was apparent that she liked working with people and helping people. So a job was customized for her at the local nursing home, starting with very few hours, but that was at her request. We had to take it slowly. But quickly, her work hours increased, especially as her self-confidence grew and the business saw the value in her work. It was a win-win for everyone. And just some other contributing factors that made a difference was first, number one, was the opportunity to try out customized employment. And through this first year, some contributing factors were training and technical assistance we received, and getting the opportunity to practice some of these new ideas and think outside the box. Also, it strengthened a lot of our relationships that we had at the local level. It helped us build a trustful relationship with the job seeker, but also with their parents or their grandparents or their guardian, whoever was closest in their life. It helped families engage more, because when we went through Discovery, we observed the job seeker in their home, and we asked questions of the family and just helped them engage and get more interested in the job-seeking process. We recognized also the critical partner that IVRS is in getting things to work smoothly at the local level. And through learning customized employment strategies together, it helped us also strengthen our relationship with case management, especially with our success story. That was very important, that relationship we built there. And our successes, job opportunity successes, I just want to run through them briefly, was given the opportunity to be a part of the pilot, and being part of the pilot, getting the referrals, and it gave our individuals with disabilities an opportunity to work in the community that they might not have ever had otherwise. This especially was true of our success story, because no one was looking for her a job. And out of the 5 job opportunities, placed 4 of them. And in total for this year, job opportunities placed 12 clients. And I know that probably doesn't sound like very much to you, but to us in a small organization, when we only placed 3 last year and 4 the year before, I think 12 sounds big, and we credit some of that to what we learned in customized employment. And for the first time, job opportunities, job retention rate was 100%, and I just had to throw that in there because we've been in existence for over 23 years, and we've never had that. But stay in their job, everybody that had a job stay in a job over 6 months. And also the technical assistance and resources that were made available through the pilot. We are fortunate to have the opportunity to continue for a second year and introduce Discovery phase into the school to work transition process. I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute here. Looking back on the first year, we are now doing some things differently, mainly using some discovery strategies. Because during the pilot, discovery process had allowed us to use the time and use tools to find out about our job seekers in depth. We really got to observe a lot of the aspects of their life. discovery approach allowed us to start more broadly than we had in the past. Now VBJO looks at as many aspects of the individual's life as possible in an effort to find the information necessary for employment success. Up to now, the starting point using the traditional approaches to assist job seekers had been to assess their skills and interests. Now we can look at their whole life a little broader anyway. VBJO learned how to ask more questions, observe, and collect information, starting at the very first meeting, at the initial intake. If you ask what somebody wants to do, which used to be our old question, they would usually answer what was most familiar with them. They wanted to work with children or work with animals. But we found that asking questions like, what do you love? What, if you could do or be anything in the world, what would it be? What do you care the most about? What chores do you do at home? Just ask a lot of questions and follow them up with another question after they've answered you. It helps you dig deeper and find most ideal circumstances that can enhance their performance. Also, conducting discovery followed by career exploration, and especially community-based assessment, has really helped and made the difference in our success. I just want to go over a few barriers or gaps we saw, and during that first year. The fifth job seeker that we had who did not have a job, or we could not find him a job, he had little realistic exposure to the world of work in school. He just graduated from school when we got him last summer, and very limited information came with him. He had no adult providers except for IVRS, and after graduating, his day was comprised of playing computer games at home. He didn't know what he wanted to do. We also found out that adult support providers, case managers, parents, and school systems had little or no knowledge of customized employment and the Employment First initiative.
Sorry, Janet. I think I'm getting a little feedback from your phone, or a paper's moving.
Yeah, I hear that, but there's no noise here.
Okay, I apologize.
Okay, just one last slide here. For this year, VBJO is partnering with a community school district to create a strong school-to-work transition process. And these are some of our goals: to ensure that the students with disabilities career readiness begins early and introduces integrated competitive employment opportunities to students while in school, extends the discovery process into the schools, and we have observed students in the classroom, in the library, at sheltered work, and we're learning a lot about the referrals that we're getting through the school system. Promotes the importance of a student receiving paid work experience, which we're still working on every child or every student getting work experience exposure. And we're working on promoting a transition process that is a natural progression for the student, so they become employed after high school, or ideally before they graduate from high school. It connects the students to adult providers, since our fifth job seeker did not have any supports in place, and it has caused a delay in service and gaps in services because he does not have any providers now that he's out of high school. And another transition objective is to develop system that has an established process to provide needed supports to obtain and maintain employment. And also, to sustain transition, we need to explore the possible funding options. And it's very important for us to continue to build partnerships and strengthen our collaborative efforts. We like the opportunity to extend our customized employment project into next year, or this year, and we can't do it alone, so we thank you all for helping us and supporting us in that. And that's all.
Janet, this is Dave. Would you mind sharing a little bit more information about some of your talking points of when you went into the school system to talk about customized employment strategies? How did you show value to the school system to get the conversation going? Because I think this is an area that we have a lot of people interested in, and I'm wondering if you might just share a little bit about your strategies.
Boy, I wasn't ruffling up paper, but I didn't hardly hear you, Dave. What did you say, that last question? Would you repeat it?
Yes, I think this is an area that we have a lot of people interested in terms of how do we positively impact transition for our youth. And I'm wondering if you could share a little bit of your thoughts and some of the strategies of how you started the conversation with your school partners to get excited about customized employment and maybe a little different way of looking at our youth.
Well, we first started by getting in VR involved, Ruth Allison and her project with METS, and also the involvement that VR already has in the school system. Introductions were made and just started the conversation. Actually, the teachers in the severe and profound classroom, in 2 of the classrooms, they love talking about their students and their abilities, and also like to hear from us on different options. They did not have any other options before. They were not in any paid work experience. They were getting a little experience in the cafeteria cleaning up after lunch, and the only other option was going to the sheltered workshop. And they welcomed us. The discussion started, and it's just taken off from there. I don't know, Dave, other than just starting the conversation.
Great. Thank you, Janet. There's a lot of good information, and I think one of the things I get excited about as we look at state systems and service delivery in Iowa is the opportunity that we all have to show that we're making forward movement with employment for people with disabilities. And I think the first 2 presenters have demonstrated some successes and strategies to help move that employment dial forward. Janet, you had mentioned that it takes some time to implement some of these systems and services, and that the discussion about community-based assessments have occurred years ago, and we're still trying to tweak that process. So I think as we look at some of the strategies we're considering with customized employment, it's going to take some time to iron out some of the wrinkles in this system, but it's exciting to see as we're getting some successes coming in. You had mentioned, and I appreciate it from the VR perspective, what a critical partner VR is, but I think it's also important to recognize what a critical partner our community providers are, and we need to be having that conversation at the local levels. And I think in Janet's situation, she's worked on the customized employment strategies, the discovery, and came to the table with value. And I think as we recognize that value, that's how we're going to move the system forward by increasing everybody's capacity, and we get better results. If you look at the 100% retention rate, first thing I think of when I see that, well, we're doing some good. You're doing some good things up front, making sure there's some good matches going on, and being able to get the person with the contributions and abilities in the right situation. But you're also spending some time in follow-up and maintenance and doing whatever needs to do from a problem-solving standpoint to make sure we're meeting the individual's needs as well as the business needs. And I think that's exciting as you're talking about those things. So thank you for sharing. So we've heard from southwest and southeast Iowa, and now we're going to kind of go to central west part and hit Cass Incorporated in Atlantic, Iowa. And I think we're going to have Jen Egan and Glenda Ferrier share a little bit about their experiences. So I'll turn it over to you, Jen and Glenda.
Hi, this is Jen. I apologize, we don't have a PowerPoint for you. Glenda and I decided we were just going to wing it, so you're just going to listen to us talk. What? Oh, Glenn. Cass Incorporated, as David said, is located in Atlantic. We live in a very small community of about 7,000 people. In the county is about 13,000. So one of our biggest barriers that we have is finding employers to take in some of the individuals that we have along job coaching, with follow-along job coaching. We have 22 individuals currently with active VR authorizations, 10 of those being students. However, we still have probably about 80-plus people still in our work center that we will start looking for employment for.
And we've been doing this since 1989, so we've literally placed hundreds of people in the community. Of course, not all of them are working, but there's many, many people still in the community working today that we no longer support.
Right. Just this year, since January, we have placed 4 people in the community with also 1 pending. So we're hoping to have 5 people placed by next week, hopefully. One of the things that we decided when we started this process with the pilot is, like I stated, with being in a small community, of course we have the Walmarts and we have grocery stores and we have the nursing homes, but we really wanted to expand our opportunities for the people that we serve. So we went to each department meeting. At that time, I think we had 93 staff people that are employed by Cass Incorporated. So the Supported Employment Department, myself, attended department meetings and basically asked, we explained what the project was, what our mission was, and then we asked the people, our staff people, who do you know? Who do you know that works somewhere, that knows someone that would be willing to let us come in and do some assessments, do some job shadowing, that sort of thing. The responses that we got were phenomenal. We got into different businesses that we've never been in before. And I think, my staff don't know this, but I think it's time we do that again. With the 22 people that we have with active authorizations, we can only place so many people at Walmart. So that's probably something that we're going to try to do here in the next month or so, because, of course, we have new staff people, and, maybe people have had time to think about it and actually, see the good that we have been doing in the community to get some new opportunities for the individuals that we have currently seeking job opportunities. One of the businesses that we went to is a factory here in town that we somewhat have an in with. One of the job coaches that works here, her husband is a supervisor at the factory, and also my brother-in-law is the vice president. So we used those connections that we have, and we got our foot in the door. Amy, the job coach, went over during one of the shifts and had her husband take her around the facility and basically just started taking notes about what they did, how they did it. Basically all of those things that the untrained eye wouldn't see to be an unmet need. Amy learned these skills from going through the project with some of the trainings that we went through. And out of that, we came up with a list of things that we presented to the company that stated, if you would allow someone to come in and to do this, it would then give you the option or the opportunity to not have to stop your production line an hour before the end of each shift to refill the assembly line products that were needed to complete the product that they were working on. They weren't real certain at first that was going to work, but they did allow us to come in and do a worksite assessment. We did the worksite assessment. I think after day 2, they were ready to hire because they saw that not only were they able to keep the production line moving, they were making money. They were making a lot more money because they weren't having to pay their employees to stop working on the product to fill the line for the next shift coming in. The individual was hired. He was hired for 20 hours a week. I think by month two, they were asking if he could work 40. Due to some of his, some of his limitations, his mental health, that really wasn't going to be a beneficial thing for him, so we agreed on 30. And even going from 20 hours to 30 hours, it was a struggle for him, but he has adjusted quite well. The factory that he is working in, I think that they hang a thermometer up over there in the summer, and the temperature reaches about 120 degrees inside the building because of the ovens that they are molding, or the molding ovens, or I don't know the technical term, and please don't tell my brother-in-law, but I don't. Anyway, yeah, since that time, they have hired another individual to do the same job on a different shift. She has since moved to 30 hours. We were just talking the other day. I predict her probably moving to 40 hours within the next year. And she could easily do a 40-hour job, and she wants to. When those two were hired, they were hired to basically fill the assembly line so the production could keep moving. Those two are no longer doing that job once they were in there, and supervisors could see their abilities and their talents. The one individual is now drilling coolers for the Yeti company and assisting the foamers, and the other individual is assembling the lids for the coolers. So neither one of them are doing what they were hired for. So pretty proud of that. And I guess our fifth person that's pending is also pending to work over there as doing some maintenance and general yard work, I guess, throughout the summer. And that's something that I think he's starting 15 hours or 20? We're going to try 15 hours a week with him. Again, that's going to fit his needs best, but we hope to eventually increase his hours as well. I'm going to turn it over to Glenda.
So with being one of the pilot projects last year, from the time we started, well, I think it was October the year before, through the end of December this last year, we we placed 3 of the 4 people that we were supposed to place during the project, and then during that period of time, we ended up placing 13 people total. We have 5 now, you heard us say, this year with 1 pending, no, 4 with 1 pending, to be 5. So, that's a goodly number of people. We did get the second-year grant, and us and one other organization is kind of working on the same thing. And what we want to do is we want to learn more about the transformation process. That's something we've kind of committed to, but but we still feel that there's a lot of things that we're doing that are really beneficial in the facility-based side. But we want to move more and more people out into the community and use the workshop side for some of the other things that we're doing, or for people that don't want to go. So we know in time, they'll probably come to the transformation, will probably have us all working totally in integrated services, but our goal is to move as many people out as we possibly can, and and to keep using a wide variety of choices and options for everybody that we serve. I guess one thing I wanted to say was the thing that we really appreciate through this whole process, with VR and IC and just everybody who's been involved, is number one, the belief in all of us as provider organizations to kind of, work with y'all on doing this. And the money that we got, that really was helpful. But particularly the tons and tons of training that we got, which was amazing, and the technical assistance. We had never heard of the discovery process. We embraced that like crazy. I think that's probably one of the things that at least I've enjoyed seeing all these folks in the department work on, because our belief is always that you do all this work up front. Somebody else had mentioned that, maybe Janet, and I think also Nishna. You do all this work up front, and that's so important because Janet talked about the 100% retention. And, I think used to we'd find a job and we'd get somebody in the job, and then we'd find another job, we'd get somebody in the job, and then the first person would leave the first job, and then we have to get them in another job. And now with this, with looking at it totally differently, asking different questions, finding out, what's at the heart of somebody's desires for employment and for their life, we're able to make some job matches that, are mutually satisfactory to everybody. So that discovery process has been amazing. The other, go ahead, Jen.
I'm going to just interject here. One of the individuals that we had initially with the pilot project, that she was placed initially, but it was not a successful placement or outcome for her. And so we now are going through the discovery piece again with her to, just talking it over again with everybody on her team and the people in her life to try and find a job that's going to be a successful job match for her. So that's one of the things that you need to remember when you're going through these processes with VR, that there are so many different options and ways to authorizations or decodes or whatnot to work together and to kind of mesh together to find and be successful when we are looking for placements for the individuals that we're serving.
Yeah, and it's no big sin, if something doesn't work out, even when you do a lot of stuff up front, because in this individual's case, I think she and her family had some preconceived ideas, and, after an unsuccessful experience, then you just go back and you start to learn some more. So, how many of us are in the same jobs that, we started out in? So anyway, that discovery piece was awesome. The other thing that I really, really have enjoyed has been the unmet needs of the employers. And one of our employment specialists, Patty, she was talking with someone in the community, and she started just asking some questions because she knew this lady worked at a welding shop, and so she was asking about some of the things that weren't getting done there and so on, and the lady was telling her, yeah, I can't get to this, or the rest of the guys that work there can't get to this, and so she asked if she could come down and just kind of take a look, and she did, and long story short, it ended up creating a job for a gentleman in his mid-50s who used to work in a similar field as this. He's a gentleman with mental illness, and it created a job for him that he's back working with the guys now. He's only working, I think, 8 hours a week, but that's okay for him, because he hadn't been working at all. He loves it. The guys love him. He helps them kind of stock some of their materials. He cleans up the shop. He does things like that. And he'd been living in a group home, we don't have group homes, but another one in the community for many years. Over a dozen years. We were trying to decide exactly how many, but his family didn't want him to move out because they didn't think he was able. And since he's had this job, he's pretty much convinced them that he could live on his own, so he's also moved out into his own apartment now with support. So that's been pretty awesome. The guy that owns the shop told me a while back, he said, boy, thanks for sending him down there. He says, we just love him. And I says, well, you've changed his life too. So that shop owner was telling a friend of his about, how well he liked this match. And that friend is in another town in our county, and he also has a mechanical shop, and he called us up, and he says, well, how do I get somebody like this gentleman? So that created another job opportunity for someone to do something similar in another town, and that happens to be a young lady, and she also is getting, not as many hours as she'd like. They're both making $10 an hour, but she liked the job so much that we helped her to find another job doing similar kind of work for another few hours a week, so the combination gives her more hours. So, I guess the whole thing is you got to ask, and a lot of times, like going over to the factory, going to this welding shop, these guys didn't even know that they had the needs they had, Amy, another one of our employment specialists, the one that got us into the company across the street with her husband, who was a supervisor, it was just going over and taking a look at how can we see this with different eyes and, talk to you about where your needs are. Maybe we could help you figure out something that somebody could do as an employment and meet your needs. So when Jen talked about asking staff, I can't tell you how important that is because, a lesson I learned many years ago was we had a staff here, and she worked for us probably 5 or 6 years, and it wasn't until she left that I found out that she had a brother who was a state legislator. And we could have used that connection, but we never asked, and she never thought to tell us. So you never know until you ask, who's related to who or who's, who knows somebody that needs whatever. So anyway, that's kind of, that's the key points of, what we're doing here in Atlantic. I wanted to say one other thing. Atlantic is the only community that has a pilot project grant and also simultaneously has a METS grant with the schools. So we've gotten involved with our school. We've always worked with them, but it's pretty much been about they would send kids down to the workshop, and we've had limited success, I guess, of getting kids jobs. And so now they, as a school, through the METS project, have been working on transitioning kids. And we, as the adult providers, are working with them, helping, to do that. And we're learning a lot about each other, and we're learning how we can support each other, in our efforts, and how that makes a huge difference to the kids. So I feel real optimistic about, what's coming down the road in the next few years. And I guess unless Jen has something to add, I guess that's what we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen and Glenda. It strikes me that sometimes we make this process more complicated than it needs to be. And as you think about discovery, we're really talking about, observing that person in an environment that they're more comfortable in, or a different environment that we can observe and learn something about. And when we talk about how do we get more effective in employment networking, your example of going to your staff and asking them, who do you know? How do we leverage those relationships and information, and how do we create value out of that is a great example. I'm wondering if you might share, as you had those conversations internally with the CAS Incorporated staff, what were their reactions? How easy was it to get those conversations going? And did you see some changes in staff in terms of how they owned the process and value in some of the contacts that you have in the community? Could you share a little bit about that?
Yes, we can. We're debating on who's going to answer that. I think it was really just, it did take some prodding of, really what we were after. And I think probably the most response that we got out of it was when we said, well, you don't have to do anything. We will go do it. We just want the names and numbers, and, if you want to give them a heads up that we're coming, that's great, but we will actually go and present it as to what we need or want from the individual. And after we said that, they were like, names just started flowing in. So,
and us as job coaches went to the separate staff meetings and kind of talk to them more on a personal basis. We just received an email last week from one of our staff that was telling us about the new, vet in town, that maybe we should go visit there. So, I think they're still on board with us.
Well, there's a couple of people that will come in and say, oh, yeah, I've talked to somebody about you guys, you need to go visit them. We still have a few people going in with suggestions.
Did everybody hear that, hopefully?
Thank you very much. I think it's a good example of building on those relationships and creating value. I want to thank each of our three presenters. It's not easy to go through some of the ups and downs that you guys have worked with in terms of the Employment First and customized employment process, and you really do have a wealth of information about what has worked well for you and what has not worked well, and I appreciate you coming out and helping to share with some of our other providers that are hearing about this for a more first time or more recent time, and I think there have been a number of excellent talking points. Our next meeting in May is on May 27th, and we'll be hearing from a couple of our state systems on changes going on in the Medicaid and the VR worlds, as well as from one of our other projects about their efforts in employment networking and moving customized employment forward. So thank you, everybody. I'm going to turn it over to Jessica for some final comments.
Thank you, David. I just want to draw everybody's attention to the surveys available and encourage you to send in your responses. I'll leave the webinar open for a couple minutes following the meeting so that you can do the surveys as well as download any of the webinar presentations there at the bottom. And we will be sure to send out the recording as well as the transcript of the closed captioning afterwards. And thanks again to our presenters and for everybody for joining. And that's it for today.